I mean, like a choice. Choice implies that you have two possibilities at least, right? And if you say a choice, it's almost like you're. It's to me, it seems like you're saying you're out. Should I do this or should I do that? That's not always what happens. It's not like I could do this, I could do that. The mind doesn't always does that. Pardon?
It is mostly unconscious.
It's mostly unconscious in the sense that we're not even aware of it. Other awarenesses may not pick up on that. So it's just a function of the mind that it naturally has. So I don't know what the word volition means in Hebrew, what the connotation of that word is, whether it has to do with making a choice. It doesn't really have that in English. I don't think volition has the connotation of, it could mean that you can make a choice, but it's rather, there is an aspect of free will, if you like, an aspect of, right? But that just means an aspect of engaging or not. So engaging in an object. So mental engagement just means you focus in on the object, you engage the mind with the object, right? And you can do so or you don't do, but usually the mind does. The mind always does. The mind always engages, so there's not much of a choice. It's not like the function, the mental function of volition decides I'm not going to do this today. The mind always does that. Yes.
Once it was the intention, and then you change it to volition?
Yeah, exactly. In the past, I use the word intention. That's right. But I, in many of the translations, they use the word intention. But it's not a good translation, I believe. Why? Because intention and motivation are too similar. And here we're not talking about volition being referring to intention. Intention is much coarser. So volition is really like mental engagement. Yes.
To which direction?
Pardon?
Positive or negative or neutral?
Yeah. Right. Engaging the mind. Exactly. Engaging the mind in its object. And depending on which object it is and how it engages the mind, whether it dislikes it or, so whatever kind of the way it engages the mind, that determines whether it's positive or negative. It depends on that. So I've used the word, actually mental engagement is better. But there is a type of karma that's called volition, karma of volition and volitional karma. Two types of karma, which we'll come to later on. So, because grammatically you can't work around with the words mental engagement in the same way, I've chosen the word volition and volitional, right? Volition, I've used the word volition, which is just as good, right? A volition just has that connotation of engaging the mind.
In Hebrew, I think the volition, I think the translation in Hebrew is not yet accurate, so it's a bit confusing. Because it's saying it sounds as if it's, as much as we say here, it's will. That's what we said here when we translate volition. The idea is the direction to do something with a will. Maybe will to engage the mind. That's the problem.
But there's an explanation here. Say motivation is volition is motivation element. So we know what it means. We just have to find the word.
Okay.
Volition is motivation
That's the problem.
element, right?
Okay, so maybe mental engagement works better. Anyway, so I have on this page, there's a mistake I made. The other four mental factors on page 70 are feeling, discrimination, contact, and then I said mental engagement. No, it should be attention. Anyway, I've made a few mistakes that I've noticed while we go through this text. This is on page 70 in the third paragraph from the bottom. So the third paragraph from the bottom on page 70. So if you found the third paragraph, the last two lines in the third paragraph from the bottom are the other four mental factors are feeling, discrimination, contact, and I wrote mental engagement. That's a mistake. Attention. Should be attention. Anyway, if you want, I'm going to revive this again. I'm going to go over this when I'm in Tel Aviv and send a copy out to whoever's email address I have, and then it could be passed on to you so you have a correct version of this, because I found some mistakes. Yeah? Okay? Okay.
We know how difficult, extremely difficult it is for us to shut the thought or to raise the thought in the continuum of our mind. And so you say the fact that we have brought up a thought in the direction of a certain object creates a future as though we have free will to raise a thought to this and to shut up a thought to that.
But there is free will. Just no independent free will. Anyway, okay. All right, so can't go into that much in more detail, but the point is here, yes, there is, of course, a conditioned decision we can make. Of course, it depends on causes and conditions and so forth, and that is really the mind that does so. And that aspect of the mind that engages the object, that's what we call mental karma. And then there's karma of the body and the speech, which is motivated by that, by a specific awareness, which in turn is positive or negative depending on the mental engagement. Okay? All right. Now this is, I guess, is enough. That should suffice. So I don't want to read all this here. On page 71, I think it's pretty clear, understanding what I've just said. And of course, every time there is a mental activity, it leaves an imprint. It leaves some kind of residue. So there's some residue. Whatever thought we have had does not just go away without a residue. There's always some residue. I mean, even physically, if you move your hand, it has an influence on everything else around you. You know, it's like you move your hand and particles around you are being moved. So it doesn't get lost, in other words. Every action, just a movement of an arm, has some kind of consequence. So likewise, mentally, any thought we think, it doesn't get lost. There's something left. There's something left in our mental continuum. So, but we shouldn't really think of the imprints and the mind as like separate entities. You know, there's a mind with like little dots in it or something. Don't think along those lines. You can't really separate the mind. Every time there's a thought, the mind itself changes. It's different. So that's called a residue, some residues there. And then eventually that residue can also ripen in different experiences. That's the idea of karma. Even the neutral ones, they lead to neutral. Like neutral thoughts lead to neutral experiences, right? Like even if it's neither positive nor negative, that eventually leads to neither positive nor negative experiences. Experiences that we neither like nor dislike, they're just neutral. Okay? All right. Anyway, so the idea therefore is that all our experiences, whatever experience we have, is the result of an action in the past. Okay. Now, if that's the case, it doesn't mean that external circumstances are not responsible for our experiences. That doesn't deny that. But the external circumstances are not the main cause. The main cause are our actions in the past. To us, it seems the external is the main cause, and the internal, our own negative actions or positive actions, have nothing to do with the situation. It feels that way. And that can be terribly disquieting when you feel like you're a victim and you didn't do anything wrong. And nonetheless, that's terrible. I mean, that feeling of being a victim. So I believe, and this is, well, it doesn't literally speak about this feeling of being a victim, how paralyzed you are. It doesn't mention that in the scriptures. But it does talk about the fact that there are benefits of understanding karma. And it's not about telling someone else, oh, you suffer, it's your karma. Don't ever say that. That's rude. That's horrible. It's really, karma should be applied to oneself. It is my karma. When something happens to me, well, at some point in the past, I created the causes. It may have been millions of years ago. Millions of years ago. Because as we will learn, karma does not just get lost. It can remain. A karmic kind of residue can remain in our continue for a long time. So even though we haven't done anything wrong in this lifetime, we were kind and compassionate, things can still happen. Karma from a past can still ripen. And then there's a sense, okay, all right, at some point I've created the causes, whenever that was, and now at least it's gone. Because once a karma has ripened, it can no longer ripen again. At least not with regard to that particular result. It can ripen, like it can ripen in 10 different results. But then one experience has been experienced, only 9 left. Kind of that idea. So the good thing is you can just tell yourself, well, it's gone now. I've gotten rid of that. So I'm saying the point is here that if something happens to us, there's a sense, okay, instead of blaming everyone else, which usually leads to hatred and so forth, all right, there's a sense of acceptance. Okay, I've done this. This happened to me. How can I now make the best out of the situation. Because of course, if one gets sick, for example, okay, that is said to be a karma of the past. But you still go to a doctor because you may have the karma to be cured. So you can only find out by taking the medicine. Okay? So sometimes people think karma means you just kind of become a passive person. Okay, it's just my karma, I can't do anything. That's not true. Because karma is not a solid thing. It's not like you have one karma and you're kind of caught in that and it just kind of takes you along. That's not what happens. It's like a karma ripens. Okay, so once it's ripened, there's nothing you can do. It's there. As in like, you've gotten sick. What can you do? You're sick, you're sick. But you can get cured. So if you've accumulated the karma to be cured, you try and find out by going to a doctor. Now, maybe you don't have the karma to be cured right away. Okay, you just keep taking the medicine until a karma ripens that you get cured. And if you don't get cured, if it doesn't get better, all right, in this lifetime, eventually the karma will be exhausted. And it's funny, sometimes people get better without taking medicine. They take medicine, it doesn't help, they give up, and eventually they get better anyway. So sometimes the karma is just exhausted. But it helps to be more accepting of what happens without being passive. But without getting like, oh my God, this is so terrible. Oh my God, everyone else is responsible for this, and getting upset and fighting with others. Instead, okay, a bit of more of a sense of acceptance and patience. What can I now do with wisdom to remedy the situation? Okay? Because when we get angry and upset, there's no space for wisdom and intelligence, and instead it just makes things worse. And that's the second benefit that is described here. So not only is there a sense of, okay, acceptance and patience and generating wisdom and intelligence instead to counteract the situation by applying the antidotes, but also that one doesn't engage in an action that makes it worse. In other words, creating some new negative karma. Right? So this is an explanation you also find in Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, where he also speaks about when someone abuses us or offends us, that offense, that abuse is a result of a past action. Now, we can choose to be patient. And that patience doesn't have to be obvious to the other person. We can still restrain them and, for their own benefit, punish them and so forth, apply strong measures. Patience is a mental state. You can be very patient and still punish your children. Right? You can be full of love and understanding of your children, and still, from the outside, you look very scary. Okay? So for their own benefit, you punish them, you restrain them, you stop them from continuing harming others. But patience is an inner state. So instead of that, if one then really gets angry and has hatred towards that person and retaliates, then the karma, the result of which I have just experienced, I reproduce. Thank you very much. Right? So I've just experienced the result of a negative actions, which I can no longer experience again, but I create a new cause. So what's the point? I just continue on with producing more suffering. So understanding karma means also that when something negative happens to oneself, to make sure one does not create again another cause for future suffering. Okay? So that's just an internal reaction. Externally, you may pretend you're angry, you may be, take on strong measures, punish the person, put them in prison. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to stress this. Being angry or reacting with strong measures can be motivated by love and compassion, and then this action is most beneficial. If it's motivated by anger and hatred, it's just a negative action. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. And then, of course, to understand also any kind of negative action can be purified. So as you've done last night, for those of you who stayed behind, any negative actions can be purified by engaging in the actions of purification. Then I've also briefly mentioned that when we say karma, it usually refers to the action itself. The action itself, the volitional action itself, that is called karma. But you can give the name of the cause to the result. So when we say, oh, it's been my karma to experience this problem, it's actually saying, I created the karma in the past, and this is now the karmic result. But sometimes the word is used in a way by giving the name of the cause to the result. Okay. And then there's 4 characteristics of karma, which I can go through quite quickly. There are 4 characteristics of karma that are described as the certainty of karma, the great increase of karma, not experiencing the result of any action one has not done, and actions one has accumulated do not perish. So the certainty of karma, that first characteristic, is basically just saying that karma is like a law of nature. It operates with empirical uniformity, in the same way as the law of gravity, the laws of motion, and so forth. So nowadays in modern science, we talk about laws of gravity, laws of motion, and so forth. So those are just laws that function with empirical uniformity. Okay, so if there's gravity, you drop something, it's going to fall to the ground. Okay, there is no kindness, for example, with regard to the law of gravity. It's not like, it's your favorite cup, you drop it, it breaks. It's not like, oh, gravity is really kind of unkind or something. There's no kindness or an unkindness. There's no judgment. Likewise, with the law of karma, it's like that. There's no judgment involved. It's not like someone judges, someone, kind of counts the good points. No, it's just a law of nature, right? And so we can't expect kindness there or something. It's just a law of nature. So when the causes and conditions are accumulated, the result will come forth. It's like that, yeah? But then, of course, it gives us the opportunity, once we know about this law, to act accordingly, to be careful. Okay, so that is here the certainty of karma, which describes the fact that a virtuous action, which is motivated by a positive, like a wish to benefit someone, leads to a positive result, and the negative action leads to a negative result. It works like that. So, of course, unless a karma can be purified if it's negative, it can be destroyed if it is positive. Okay, so if there's strong anger, for example, if I accumulate a positive action, it doesn't necessarily mean that I experience the positive result of that, because I may get very, very angry, and the anger that arises in my continuum can destroy that karmic imprint, that karmic residue of the positive karma. So this is something to be that's usually warned of, like not getting angry. The texts warn of the disadvantages of getting angry from the point of view, of course, one harms others, one accumulates negative karma by becoming angry and then acting according to the anger, or acting out or acting in response to the anger. But on top of that, every time we get angry, we may destroy positive karma. It's just the destructive force of anger. It can actually affect our mind to a degree that it can destroy positive actions accumulated in the past, or these leftover residues. So that's a reason to be very careful to not get angry, or when we get angry, to try and stop it as quickly as possible, because the longer it arises in our continuum, the more destructive it is. And then positive actions, of course, can be purified by negative actions can be purified by positive actions. So here, when we say we purify a negative action, purification practice is very powerful, because it's directed towards purifying the action. The 4 antidotes that I'm sure you've learned about, so those 4 antidotes, they are complete, so therefore the action in itself, even if it's neutral, reciting a mantra actually is neutral, but because of the motivation, because of all the other factors that one generates at the same time, the action becomes positive. But actually, any positive action can serve as a purifying factor of a negative action. So if you help others, it can potentially purify negative actions, right? So this is another reason for not just engaging in purification practices, which are just more focused and more safe, if you like, because you're actually directing your mind towards purification, but engaging in any kind of positive action, because it can serve as a means to purify negative karma. Okay? All right. Even if the motivation is not, yes. I mean, this is I've asked some of my teachers about it, and they say it is possible. But of course, it would be better to, before you engage in a positive action, to think whatever negative action in the past, so generating regret, generating the motivation to never engage in the action again, etc. So to apply the antidotes of regret, resolve, the remedy, and regret, resolve, the remedy, resolution. Yeah. But even without all of them, there can still be purification taking place. Okay? But of course, most powerful is when all four are there, and then engaging in a positive action is the most powerful way. Yes?
You mentioned, I think, that the motivation is the most important. It determines whether it's good or bad action. And then you exclude killing. Killing is bad, no matter what the motivation.
No. Actually, killing in itself, if the motivation to kill is there. There's a difference. The motivation...
If I kill out of my good heart, it's positive?
If you kill out of your good heart...
And the others is suffering?
No. Killing without the motivation to kill is not negative. Accidentally. If you drive a car, you don't drive too fast, you killed someone, it's not negative.
So my question is, for the positive actions, like generosity, if I do it with a negative motivation,
It becomes negative.
There's nothing positive about it?
Well, unless...
Because if I'm
Okay.
working for others,
Yeah.
service without a good motivation, it's still purifying. But here, if I give something, I give a home to homeless.
No.
Just because I want to take it from my husband during the divorce process. I don't care about homeless, but I give him a home. Sorry, I'm not done.
Taking the fish option.
Oh, I got confused. What was this? Jonathan have to do with that? Okay, now I remember. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the point is here, with the motivation, like for example, the action of killing. If you have the wish to kill someone, there's a motivation there. Okay? So, but if you want to kill someone in order to benefit them, so I think the activity in itself, sometimes they say that killing in itself is negative, but only if you want to kill. If you want to kill. But then the motivation influences that wish to kill, making it positive or negative. Okay? You can have a positive wish to kill. You want to kill them to relieve them from their suffering. It's pure compassion, but it's still a wish to kill. So if there's a wish to kill, the action of killing is negative.
And if there's a wish to give, it's positive, even if the motivation is not...
If there's the wish to give to someone,
Of course.
I would say, well, it depends on what you give.
I give
If
a
it's
home.
drugs, okay,
I give a home.
Yes.
But the motivation is to make the owner suffer.
yes.
I don't care about it.
You
but
see,
I still give him a
Leora, I don't think it's that simple. Usually when we give, it's usually there's a mixture of different things. So you want to give a house to someone. That in itself is positive, right? You want to give a house to someone in order to benefit your husband, to harm your husband. Then there's a negative aspect. So there's the aspect of wanting to give to someone, that is positive, but it's mixed with the intention to therefore harm your husband. So it's a mixture,
So
I would say.
I just ask from a different angle.
Yeah.
Would it be right to consider the action itself benefits or causes suffering to the person who gets it? If it benefits, no matter my motivation adds more. It determines the degree of the negativity or positivity. But if it helps the person who gets it, positive or negative action, if it causes suffering, then it's negative. If it causes happiness, then
it's just very complicated. I mean, if you take the idea of killing, if you wish to give to someone, I believe that giving in itself, if it's something that benefits the person, the wish to give has some positiveness there. It's positive. Okay? In the same way, the wish to kill in itself is negative. In itself is negative. The wish to steal is negative. But if it's done with a positive motivation, it becomes like a mixture. So the wish to work in a Dharma center, that was your question before about the Dharma center, working in a Dharma center. So you wish to do so. So that in itself, because it does benefit people, and you're not doing it unintentionally. I mean, it's impossible to work for a Dharma center unintentionally. It's possible to kill someone unintentionally, but working for a Dharma center, there's always a wish to do so. But in order maybe to get famous or to get rich or whatever. So just the fact that you want to work in the Dharma center where the action does benefit someone, that has a positive aspect. But the positive aspect is quite slight because the actual reason for having the wish is in order to make money or be famous or whatever. So there's some tiny positive aspect, but there's also or smaller kind of positive aspect, but there's also a negative aspect because of the. So it's a mixture, I believe.
But sometimes when you do something like that,
Yeah.
and you're not starting from a really positive
Motivation. Yeah.
motivation, then slowly you start to like what you're doing, and you know,
And it changes.
and then you find yourself saying, "Wow,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that
Yes.
that person
Is happy now.
made me give the
Yeah.
home to."
Ah. Okay. In this
And
case.
I'm so happy with what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
so sometimes
It changes.
if
Yes.
you think only about the good motivation or bad motivation, maybe sometimes you won't do things. Because as you always said, you give a home to someone that is homeless. The motivation was not good, but the action was good. If we think all the time about the motivation, maybe we won't go into doing good things that might rise into great things.
I mean, the motivation, like I'm just saying, it's better to have a good motivation from the beginning, you know? Of course, right? Okay, and sometimes it's just not there, but it's still there's some positive action, so it's all right. I mean, I guess like still giving to that, okay, I mean, if you really harm the husband, you know, it's like there's a great, I mean, we have to, it's very difficult to really make a decision. We have to use common sense in the end, right? Pardon? A good Jewish brain is good. Actually, it's good because you go right away into all the different possibilities. It's helpful, but in the end, I cannot answer. Each and every case is individually different. I would just say, with this understanding, I guess just if you understand this much, the motivation why I'm doing it, is it for the benefit of others or just that is important. Then there's the action that you want to do. Then in itself, the wish to want to do an action, that in itself is positive or negative, right? One of the two. And then there's there's the completion. So anyway, if you read all this here, I hope it becomes a little bit clear that all these are important, and then accordingly we can make a decision. Yeah, but what do you say? I don't disagree with this. I totally agree, and I think you're absolutely right that we can start off with a very inferior motivation, and because of the force of the action itself, we see how it benefits others. We may actually experience joy in helping others, and therefore the motivation becomes positive. Yes, please.
I have a question very relevant to Israel about soldiers that kill people
Okay.
during battle.
Mm-hmm.
I know few of them that really struggle with it. The killing that was kind of imposed by the situation.
Yes. Okay, so about killing. All right. I mean, every killing is different. It depends on your motivation again, right? I mean, to tell you the story of the Buddha, those of you who haven't heard of the Buddha in a previous life, where he killed a person who was about to kill 499 people, so he killed him instead in order to make sure that this person was not going to accumulate the negative karma of killing, and to save the 499 people. Okay, so this shows and still there was a negative action, there was a negativity because there was the wish to kill. That in itself is negative. But because to save other people, due to the wish, because of wanting to help other people, so it made that negative action that was negative in itself greatly positive. There was only a slight negativity. So taking that into mind, that kind of logic you can apply to everything. Now, if you're a soldier and you have to be a soldier, now, if it's possible to not be a soldier, then if that's an option, you could opt for that. But, I mean, I think one has to really think, because I'm not 100% saying you should never be a soldier. I cite the Dalai Lama, that's safer. The Dalai Lama has once said, in an audience, I was there myself, he said non-violence does not mean no violence ever. He said that, does it say that? Okay. Anyway, he cited the situation in Tibet. He said, sometimes people think, I say no violence in Tibet whatsoever. He said, I'm opting for this because it's just not a solution. Hypothetically, if the situation of Tibet in 1959 could have been resolved by sending in an army of people, fighting a short war, and resolving the situation, it would have been okay. It would have been okay. His Holiness never said non-violence by all means, because short-term harm for long-term benefit is acceptable. Okay? But of course, it's a very difficult thing. He didn't. We have to be very careful here. But if we know 100% that a short act of violence, which kills relatively few people, okay, a few soldiers will die, but then the problem is solved and no longer anyone will die. Instead, the problem has dragged on until now, and a lot more people have died. Okay? So if it had been a solution, it would have been, but often we only know in retrospect. Okay? But if we had, let's say, hypothetically known, it would have been okay, he said. So therefore, the situation with the army, but then I don't know the political situation. I don't know, I can't say. Is it better to, in certain cases, it is better to have an army to kill a potential suicide bomber before he kills others, so accumulate the negative karma of killing others, and of course, preventing the death of so many others. See? So this would be a very simplified way of looking at it. In the end, I don't know, if you have no choice and you have to go and kill, well then that's what you need to do. Even at the time of the Buddha, monks had to go as become soldiers. That's why there's a rule for monks, they can disrobe 3 times. They can disrobe and take back their vows. If you don't break your vow, you give back your vow, you can do that 3 times. Why? Because at the time of the Buddha, the different kingdoms in India were under the control of different kings, different rulers, and they would sometimes pass a decree that everyone had to go to war. So the monks had to go to war, the men had to go to war, and you were either killed or your family was killed, so you had to go to war. So you could give back your vows, go to war, and take back your vows. So the Buddha saw that as a possibility. He didn't say kill yourself instead. He said, okay, you do what you're told to do. Try to generate the best motivation you can, and then come back and continue doing your thing. It's samsara. It's samsara. Not only do we experience problems, we are sometimes forced to engage in negative actions. We are. So then to do the best out of a negative situation, I guess, right? And the killing is not as bad if your motivation is to kill, yes. But if you have in mind, I want to benefit most people involved in that moment while you have to kill, then really generate compassion for the person you're killing, for the relatives of that person, and for the people who could otherwise possibly be killed by that person. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's very difficult. I'm not saying I have a solution, but that's making the best out of a negative situation. Okay, I'm really not finishing with this material. Okay, quickly, 3, yes. What about vows we take for life? You can give them back. Well, you can give back the monks or nuns. Okay, so with the lay person's vow, I know with the monks and nuns' vows, to be honest, I don't know about lay vows, but I know for monks and nuns' vows, you can give them back. Okay, so for a man in particular, you can give back the vow and then take it back on because of that special situation. You can, if you break the vow, you can still purify afterwards. Yeah, so of course it's better not to break the vow, but like I say, it's samsara. Sometimes if we're forced to do something, I would do it. To tell you the truth, if I was forced in a situation, let's say I don't know, I really don't know, but let's say if I were to know exactly that this person is going to go out and kill all these other people, and I could save someone's life, and I knew that, I would do it, I guess. It'd be better. It'd be the better thing. I don't know. Like right now, I'm thinking I would do it. It would be okay for me to do it. But I don't know whether I would in the situation itself. I should rephrase this. But even breaking a vow. Okay, the problem is... Pardon? Right. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. Of course, as a nun, I would break my root vow. But again, the motivation should be such that I want to kill someone out of hatred and so forth. So it's a difficult situation. I really can't really say that. But I don't know whether you can give back your lay vow. This I don't know. It's something to find out. You could ask Jadu Rinpoche. if he comes. So ask him, can you actually give back your lay vow if you've taken it? If you're forced to kill, or you know that you may have to kill someone. Yeah. Yes? You had a question? Pardon? Oh, yeah. Okay. And you had a question? Someone here? No, yes. Oh, yes, sorry.
You wrote here that the Buddha had accumulated uncontaminated karma.
Mm-hmm.
He also experienced the results of contaminated karma?
No.
No?
No.
And the story that you told about the Horrors, so it's like uncontaminated negative karma?
Okay, we come to this. We haven't come to the uncontaminated yet. I did mention it briefly, but I left it out. We come to it again. Please ask me again once we get there, because hopefully my explanation will be sufficient that the question doesn't arise. Okay. Anyway, so there's the certainty of karma, and then there's the great increase of karma. The idea that any negative action we accumulate, it does grow. So the negativity of that negative action can grow. Likewise with positive action. So it's pretty fair. It's not like only negative actions grow. Positive actions also increase. So it's like a seed, like a tiny seed can grow into an entire tree. Likewise, a karmic seed can grow into greater kind of potential to cause greater harm, or greater, in the case of a positive action, greater positive results. Okay? So the longer one has an action in one's continuum, if I accumulated a positive action, the longer it is there, until it actually manifests in an experience, the longer it's in my continuum, the more it increases. So positive actions, it's good to accumulate them and then make sure that no anger arises to destroy them, because they enhance, they grow bigger. With negative actions, the problem is that they increase, likewise. So the problem is in the same way. So therefore, it is advised every night to do the 21, the mantra to Vajrasattva 21 times. 21 times do the mantra, because at least if it's done properly, it stops the increase of negative karma. That increase, that magnifying kind of property can be decreased, it is explained. So the karma we accumulate during one day, if you do the practice every night, then if it's done with the greatest kind of concentration and focus, if it's done totally properly, you can purify the karma, the negative karma you've accumulated throughout the day, or at least make sure it doesn't increase. If it's not, if it.
You can be a mean person, and every night you go wash your soul with them.
Yes, but the problem is, okay, you can be a mean person, but what do? You generate the resolution to not do it again. Every night you have the resolution. I'm not going to do it again. Regret. Not just till tomorrow morning. You try to have the resolution to not do it again, and the regret to do it again. You can't help to change. I mean, what kind of regret is that? Number one, as Nissim is saying, so I really regret. I mean, the stronger the regret, the more you purify. This was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. That's regret. Not guilt, but regret. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. This was wrong. And then there's the resolve. I will not do it again. I will really try my very best not to do it again. That's part of the practice. So with that, you can't help it. The next day, it's much harder to do it, because already your mind has changed. If you just go, oh yeah, today that's not purification. Oh, I did something bad. Just a few mantras, until tomorrow. That's not regret, and there's no resolve.
What if you don't find anything to regret on the same day?
Okay, but you don't find to just think, if I've done something unintentionally, I'm really sorry. Past life, of course, too. So, of course, in the previous life, of course, since we were born, definitely, we just don't remember. But even if throughout the day, either we don't remember or we were not aware, we can still think, if I've done something to offend someone, I'm really, really sorry. Whatever it is I have done, I regret this. And in your mind, maybe I've abused someone, in the previous life, I've killed someone, I have stolen, I have done that. So just generate regret.
And does it have to be at nighttime or whenever? Recommended at night?
The reason it's recommended at nighttime is because it's the end of the day. And that's kind of still pretty clear in your mind. So what I've done from the morning to the evening. But you can also get up in the morning and go, okay, what did I do yesterday? But oftentimes it's a little further away. It's harder to remember. So it's recommended at the evening and at the end of the day. But there's no rule. Yeah, there's no rule. Okay. Anyway, karma increases. Then one does not experience the result of an action one has not done. That's impossible. This also deals with survivor guilt. I don't know if survivor guilt, I've only heard about this recently. I've never had a reason to have survivor guilt. I've never survived something no one else did. But this has been something that's been bugging me. It's like, why would you feel guilty? You have survived. But it only ever came into my mind after I learned about Buddhism. Guilt does have no space, has no room in Buddhism. So you don't feel guilty for surviving. It may inspire you to do something for now that you survive, but you don't feel guilty. Especially with the idea of karma. I have survived because I didn't have the karma to die. These other people, I had the karma to die just like them, but my karma didn't ripen. So it's not like saying, oh, those were the bad guys, I'm the good guy. No, it's not like that. The reason they died is that we have the same karma. We've pretty much accumulated the same karma to die in an airplane crash or in whatever. But due to the circumstances, their karma ripened earlier, mine didn't. Mine is still there, right? My karma is still there. So it's not like judging anyone. But because of the circumstances, so I didn't die in this moment. So why should I feel guilty? Instead, generate compassion for those who have died and possibly work towards, that these things don't happen again. But one shouldn't feel bad about it. I mean, that's not trying I'm saying here, feeling bad about it, feeling guilty about it, just paralyzes you. And logically, it doesn't make sense. I mean, the idea is like, in the same way, when something horrible happens to me and it doesn't happen to other people, okay, I'm glad it didn't happen to them. My karma ripened, okay. But then that's it. The karma is ripened and now things continue. And from a Buddhist point of view, those people who died are still there, except not in their form any longer. Now they've gone on to a different life. New opportunities arise. So again, sometimes we have the sense, oh, now they're dead and they're gone and only I am still there. From a Buddhist point of view, no. Yes, they have died, but they continue in a different life and things change and eventually I die anyway. And so there's no point in feeling guilty about it because for me, it just was not the time to die. Does that make sense? Okay. Anyway, and then actions that the fourth characteristic is that actions one has accumulated do not perish. So whatever actions one has accumulated, unless they're destroyed by anger or they're purified in the case of positive actions, in the case of negative actions, they will continue on, they will not perish. All right. Then there's an explanation, and again, this is very straightforward, it doesn't take much time to understand it, that we can make an action more positive or more negative in dependence on 5 factors. It can become heavier or more weighty. First of all, the recipient of the action. If the recipient of the action is a bodhisattva, for example, a bodhisattva works for the benefit of all sentient beings. If we benefit a bodhisattva, indirectly we will benefit others. If we harm a bodhisattva, we indirectly harm other sentient beings. So therefore, it's when we harm a person, we should not harm someone in particular works for the benefit of others, because potentially we harm others in that way. Which doesn't mean if we need to harm someone, we take someone who doesn't benefit someone. That's not the idea behind this. But to be very careful, because the recipient of one's harm or benefit can make a huge difference in terms of the action. So previously I said the motivation, the action, and the conclusion. But there is, for example, the idea that some recipients, some objects in themselves. So for example, there is explanation of if you circumambulate a holy object, that in itself can be something positive, right? So without even the motivation to do so. But it needs to be investigated. There is debate on that. But there's said to be the recipient, as in like the object of doing something. There can be something from the side of the object that leads to some positive action there. So again, I don't need to go into this. You can read this. It's self-explanatory. So most important is the idea of bodhisattvas, people who work for the benefit of others. Benefiting them holds greater benefit. Okay. Powerful in terms of the support. Now here the support means the person who does engage in the action. Now, if you yourself know about karma, then a positive action can be more positive and a negative action can be less negative. If you know about karma. Why? Because if you know about karma, and karma here doesn't just mean karma itself. I believe